All right. So yeah, just to give a little intro. So my name is Vincent Grenier. I'm one of the co-founders at EOS Nation. And I'm yeah super passionate about EOS, and I'm working on the admin stuff for EOS Nation. But I've always been like super passionate about EOS and wanting to build some ideas. So I've started doing some university collaborations. So I can share some of the past collaborations that we did. Um, so in 2020, basically we had two groups. So one was called EOS Finance version 1, and one was called EOS Shareholding version 1. So there was in each group 7 junior developers that worked for about a year. And the total cost was like $1,000 per group. So I think it's a really effective way, cost-effective way to get some devs onboarded to EOS. So the first project was yeah, EOS Finance V1. It was like a financial platform that allowed the users to connect and easily download their EOSIO blockchain data from their accounts, and then merge on the UI, merge all their transactions, all their accounts into like a big ledger, so that they can categorize their transactions, either like an expense, a revenue, airdrop, things like that, and then facilitate their accounting. And so yeah, the intent was to generate like financial dashboards and reports with like multiple EOS accounts merged. And the second project was EOS Shareholding. So that was more like of a governance platform for businesses, so that they can create a business account and then manage the governance aspects of the business, such as like equity, decision making, and distribution and sale of the shares of the business. So the two projects were like on the same platform, so you could change from one module to the other. And yeah, so it was easy to create tokens on EOS and then facilitate that distribution of equity using a system that we call a dynamic equity split system. So that's basically what EOS Nation used to have at the beginning of the business, because we didn't have enough money to send salaries. So we had that dynamic equity split to like reward the founders with shares, basically. And so yeah, that system allowed to track like the sweat equity contributions or cash injections of the founders in that system. So this is like a kind of system that facilitate the creation of worker-owned communities. And yeah, so and then like the members can then create MSIGs of the transfers and purchases between shareholders. And then the platform also allowed to vote on business decisions and provide like each feedback on the pros and cons of what is voting on. And then users can then vote on the pros and cons, and so that they can see which is more important in the decision. And then everyone can see which arguments are more important and then make like an informed vote. So these are like the two initial projects that we created with the universities. And what we learned from that and how EOS can benefit. Well, the first thing that we learned is we shouldn't provide like a super big project to the students, because they don't finish it. And so there's no functionality that is complete. So we really need to limit the scope of work of the students, and then have the students complete it with a nice UI. They've done all the testing, they clean up the code, and then put lots of explanation in the code, and then created a video showcasing like the working prototype, and another video like explaining the code structure so that another dev can take it. And they also like create a big report of their project. Basically, that's what they have to do with their course. And so these two projects basically benefited EOS by having 14 junior developers learn EOS and EOSIO. And then we hired one of those students for a government subsidized internship. So they didn't have to learn EOSIO again during their internship. They already did it during their non-paid project. So that was like beneficial for EOS Nation and EOS. And then what was very, very nice is basically these university projects also helped EOS Nation to build some relationships with like key university teachers and researchers. And from those relationships was initiated a collaboration project that has been ongoing for more than a year now. So the project is called Traceability Gaps in the Supply Chain of Seafood Products Imported into Canada. So EOS Nation is in partnership with the University of Sherbrooke, University of ETS in Montreal, Mérinov, which is a sea-to-market industrial research center, also really active. So a company specialized in IoT devices and ambient data. So they're going to try to integrate the EOS blockchain into their IoT devices. And then also University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, Cercle E, which stands for Circle Innovation. So this is a non-for-profit company that facilitate the collaboration in open public blockchain projects that has relationships with key stakeholders such as Revenu Québec and other like government agencies and other blockchain projects in Quebec region. And also right now there's the MTY group that owns like about 70 restaurant brands that is looking to partner with this project. So the goal of this specific project is to create like a fully open source working prototype that will facilitate the tracking of seafood on the EOS blockchain. And the project has just finished like the planning and financing phase, and it's now moving to the development phase. And yeah, it's been going on for like a year and a half and no development has been done yet. So yeah, university projects, like big projects take a lot of time to start because the financing part is long. But yeah, that is a really nice project that we've been involved in for a little while. So we're excited now that this is moving forward. And yeah, so the first two projects, although they were not finished, they like the finance V1 and shareholding V1. So they paved the way for future projects to piggyback from. And then we also like learned the processes for doing business with universities. So that's very nice. And also there's a local worker-owned community of merchants and farmers in Sherbrooke who currently uses EOS for their payments and purchases with clients with like a dozen vendors. And they're interested in taking the portion of the dynamic equity split system in the shareholding project and bring it to another level and then maintain it so that they can use it with their worker-owned community so that they can like create shares and things like that. And now they have a Pomelo pitch that you guys can support. It's called participative. Anyways, there's that. And then after that, in 2021, we had an NFT ticket project on Wax that was created by 5 developers of the Polytechnique of Montreal. So that project cost us like $500 at the most. So still very cost effective. So we have 5, there were 5 junior developers that worked on an NFT ticketing platform on Wax, and that enables users to create and sell NFT tickets on Wax. And the platform is similar to like Eventbrite ticketing platform. And then again in 2021, we had 5 students of the Polytechnique of Montreal that created a prototype for EOS Marketplace. So it's like a marketplace where users can buy and sell goods and services using EOS as a currency and doing like on-chain payments. So I have a video of that I can share with you. And then the ongoing university projects that we have right now. So EOS Nation has 31 junior devs working on 5 different prototypes. So we have 9 developers from the University of Sherbrooke and 5 developers from the ETS University in Montreal that are both working on the same project. So the NFT ticket platform. So they're taking what has been done with the first project with the Polytechnique on Wax and then bringing that to EOS and then version 2. So a little bit more advanced. And there's a possibility that some industry partner uses the project afterwards. That's cool. And then there's another group of 5 devs from the ETS of Montreal working on EOS voting V2. So also piggybacking from first project shareholding, the decision-making module. So they're just focusing on that specific module so that they can do on-chain voting. And what's nice is that the users that are proposing a vote will be able to choose what type of user or account can vote. So it's going to be either any EOS account can vote or accounts that receive an invitation only can vote, or only Eden accounts can vote. So that's going to be a nice voting platform that could be used by the Eden members to get to consensus on certain decisions, and then see like the pros and cons of each decision, and allow people to vote on these pros and cons to see which arguments make more have more weight in that decision. And now we have also a platform, five devs working like on a UI for EOS payments. So basically, it's going to allow the sender of the payment to specify what the receiver is going to receive. So let's say I want to send 1,000 USDT to someone, and that someone wants to receive that USDT, well, 60% in USDT because he wants to pay his bills or whatever, to a certain EOS account, and then maybe 30% of that, 30% of the total amount in EOS to another account, and then 10% in, let's say, PBTC on EOS to another account. So that way the contractors can like automate their saving and assure that there's like a split between their long-term holding accounts and active accounts with which they make their payments. And then the sender that is, the ones that sending the fund can also just use one currency. If they don't have the three or the multiple currencies in their account, they can just send one, and then a smart contract is going to use like DeFi box to do the swaps, and then the person is going to receive the funds in their respective account, and the receiver is the one like paying the swap fees of DeFi box. So that's another project. We have also EOS Finance version 2. So 7 devs from University of Sherbrooke. Or piggybacking from the first finance project. So they're working on a UI that will allow users to specify multiple EOS accounts or WAX and any EOSIO account, and then specify from which date to which date, and then extract their blockchain data easily. So that's going to use EOS Nation Diffuse stack. So those are the projects that we have ongoing. And then, so yeah, these are the projects that we've done and we have ongoing. So now if we look at like the benefits that I see in collaborating with universities, well, first, we're getting more devs learning EOS and experimenting with the technology for months and at a very low cost. So that's, I think, a very important factor. And then we have more developers work on open source application and prototypes on EOS that can then be taken back by the community or anyone to really bring it to another level, and then monetize it or just provide it for free, let's say. We also think it's a good idea like to build partnerships and develop relationships with the universities and researchers. So at the beginning, when I started, like, I didn't know anyone at the university, I have no contacts, but the 2 first projects got me contacts that then were useful to be a part of the, let's say the food and sea supply chain project. So like all these things, and also like most of the groups I have right now come from a referral from one of the teachers that I met with that seafood project. So it's like, as soon as you get in the universities, you build so many relationships. I think it's very useful. So maybe the first or second project won't have anything beneficial to the business, but what's coming out of that afterwards might be very beneficial. So we have to see like more steps ahead, not just, well, will they build something that the business will use now? Well, no, there's more benefits to that. And yeah, I think it's also a great way to find great developers at their beginnings and then make them work on an EOS app prototype for like 4 to 8 months to learn about EOSIO and do their training. And then once their training is done, their project is done or ongoing, you can then hire them as an intern, where like 50% of their salary is then paid back as subsidies. So I think it's a very cost-efficient way to hire junior devs to work for EOS Nation or another business on EOS or just the ecosystem. I think that's very good. So those are like the main benefits that I see. And so the processes now that I use, and I think that we could piggyback off of. Well, first, like if EOS Bees participate in this, maybe I can share my screen because I wrote that. Oh, is it enabled? All right, screen 2. So yeah, I'll show you guys like more of the process, and then I can also take all that text and put that into a Google Word where the EOS Bees can look at it. But yeah, basically, the bees and people need to research the local universities and verify if they offer software engineering courses and programs. So like see which courses are offered and which can benefit to the ecosystem, and then find and document the relevant contacts. So, and what we can do with them. So like, what are the opportunities? So there is senior year student projects. So basically getting students like we do and have them work on a prototype on EOS for 4 months, 8 months, a year. And then for that specific project, well, you need to find who's responsible to give these projects to the students with the teacher, and then contact them. There's also like non-paid internships at some universities. There's also blockchain associations. So some universities have blockchain associations, so they do conferences about blockchain, but other universities don't have that. So maybe there's a possibility to implement that association in collaboration with a specific student, or just to sponsor that association so that they can talk about EOS and invite some speakers. There's also like blockchain related research and R&D chairs. So for example, I'm in contact with about 3 different chairs doing research. One is with the notary chair of Quebec. So they want to create like a blockchain for notary in Quebec. So I'm always in contact with the woman responsible for that, hoping that at some point we help out on that and build their blockchain for notaries on EOS or EOSIO. And then, yeah, there's always a possibility to fund these chairs or to collaborate in certain ways. Then the other idea I had was to like create yearly inter-university student competitions or hackathons. So for example, I'm a civil engineer, and when I was at university, we had this concrete canoe competition where we had to build a canoe in concrete and then go on the river and compete with other universities. So that was like certain competition, but I think in EOS and blockchain, there might be some way to have like student competitions, like running nodes or I don't know, creating some apps, or just doing like a hackathon focused on a specific thing. So I was just like brainstorming earlier, like maybe we could have the universities create applications and collaboration so that they can all create their own university token or whatever, and then create like an NFT ticket app for their football or sports game or whatever. So anyways, there's plenty of possibilities that the bees and the community can try to brainstorm and document. And then once those opportunities are defined, then you can try to push and see which one works, and then we can all document that. And then for the senior year projects, I have like a certain process. So first, we need to create project proposals, and the proposal contains like the title of the project, who's proposing the project, let's say EOS Nation Inc., who's the person of contact, the description of the opportunity, high level description of the project, and then like you talk about the deliverables, the requirements, all the functionalities, and then how will we and hold the students and give them all the documentation and resources, and then how will the intellectual property will be managed. So we do mostly open source, and then once the project is approved, then we validate if we need to do a presentation to the students. So sometimes I have to prepare some slides and head to the university, or just go on a Zoom call and propose them the project. Sometimes that's not necessary. And then once we have like a relationship with a team of students, then we will have like to do like a meeting where we'll introduce each other. And I want to know like each student, what's their background, what's their interest, because I really want to know the students at the beginning, because maybe I will hire them afterwards. Or So that I think it's important. And then yeah, we talk about EOS Nation, EOS blockchain, and all these things. I think that portion, like just introduction to EOS blockchain and EOS Nation, could be like just a video that we share at some point, so that we can save that 10 to 20 minutes in all those meetings if we have many projects and scale. And then, yeah, we talk about the project scope and requirements, and then talk about like a rough schedule and timeline of the project. So how long it's going to take, when do we do meetings? Is it weekly, bi-weekly, or just like tell us when we need to meet and we'll get on a call. And then, yeah, then how it works is like, they're going to take some time to learn the technology. I'm going to send them like a email with all the resources to go and do the tutorials. And then after like a few weeks, they've done that, they've learned EOS, and now they're ready to develop. So now we're getting like on a meeting with our CTO, Denis Carrière, and all the students are asking all the questions. And then I record that meeting so that I can share that with future groups, because most of the times they have similar questions. And then we have like a specific budget per team. So right now there's no team that costs us more than $1,000. So I think it's very cost effective. And the only thing we need to make sure is that it's also effective on Denis' time and our CTO time and all our devs, because the devs are a scarce resource, and we want to make sure they're always working on stuff for EOS, and we don't want to have them always on Zoom calls. So what I do is I get all my student groups to get on one call with our CTO, and then they ask all their questions. And then when another group have some questions, well, I'm going to tell them, well, let's wait a few days or a week. Let's get on another call with all of these groups again, so that we can only take one meeting time for Denis. And then, yeah, and then I create like a Telegram group with all the students, and so that where they can ask questions, and other groups can then see those questions and the answers. So I think at some point, if we have something with the bees, we could just invite everyone from the community and the devs that want to participate in answering those questions, join the channel, and then just keep inviting the students and that. So it's like a EOSIO developer channel, but focused on devs and students. Yeah, and then, yeah, what happens is the students, they start working, and then they're pretty much independent, because they have all the resources they need. They can go on Telegram and ask questions, and then they produce like very long and detailed papers on the project to describe like what they're doing, and then at the end they create another report. And yeah, and at the end, what I think is very important to ask is for the students to provide clean code, explanations on the code, and then write the code in English, even though, let's say, the students that I get, they're all French, since we're in Quebec. But yeah, ask the code that is in English. And then I ask them for a prototype, a video, a video of the prototype working on EOS and explaining it, because some of the times what's going to happen is, after the project is done, we're just like closing it because we cannot maintain it because we have so many things working on. But I want to have like a good video so that people can see what it looks like when it's working, so that people can just then copy the GitHub repo or whatever, and then start from there. But at least we have a video showcasing what the prototype is. So yeah, that's pretty much like a rough process. So if we look at the processes that I have in place and which one I think we need to improve, let me see. So yeah, right now I have like a database that I could share with the bees, where we input like the school, which program is available, what their language is, city, address, like all the information of the school. And then who are the contacts there, and then like all the basically, yeah, everything related to tracking your local universities and having these contacts and things like that. So I have like a database for that we can share. So I think that's a good process. I also have like email templates so that we can use to reach out to universities, to teachers, and then we can improve. I think something that would be cool would be to create like a database for project proposals. I think that's something that is missing, like a pool of ideas that then students could go and see and choose from. I think something else that would be useful would be like maybe for me to create like a video explaining like what is EOS, what is EOS Nation, and how do we work with universities usually, so that they can listen to that, and so that I don't have to re-explain all that when I get on a one-on-one call with these groups. Yeah, so email templates for the first communication with the student group. So I have that. I also have created like a Telegram group with the students, with all the groups. One thing, yeah, so that needs to be done is every time there's a project, a specific project that the student choose, then we need, maybe we need to create like a slide deck for that project proposal, just to pitch it to the students. And what I think would be very useful would be to create like a landing page for EOS students, basically, where the students could go and watch the explanation video and then view all the proposed projects that they can work on. And then the businesses could also go on there and propose projects to be built by the students in collaboration with EOS Nation or EOS community. And I think one thing that is important there is that we keep that open source, even though it comes from businesses. And then, yeah, on that same landing page, provide links to resources, or let's say EOS support, or anyway, we just need to have a way to provide the resources the student needs, so that we don't always need to send them an email with all the resources, so that we can have that on our landing page. I think that could be something very useful to scale this initiative. And then, yeah, what we do is we have recurring meetings with Denis, our CTO, and the student groups, but those are like, are not planned in advance. So it's like when one group asks me to get on a call with Denis, well, I invite all the others. But I think if we scale this initiative like worldwide, we should have like recurring stand-up meetings where like tech developers like Denis and other people could join, and then have all the student groups all over the world join. And if there's no one, that's fine. But if there's some questions, we can answer them in there. And then I think what would be useful is to have like a secretary or someone listening to these calls, and then writing all the questions and the answers down during the AMA, and then putting that like in a FAQ section on the landing page, or like on EOS support. Basically, there's always plenty of questions, and sometimes it's the same. So I think it would be wise to have like a organized and centralized place where all the answers could be answered. But yeah, maybe that could be our support or our landing page or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I don't know if you have any questions.
I think you've proven that this strategy of reaching out to universities bears a lot of fruit. Yeah. And so it's awesome to hear all the work that you've done. While you were speaking, I wrote down a couple of questions.
Cool.
You mentioned that the first couple of courses, the scope is too large.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, are you working on new courses with like a smaller scope?
Well, when we say courses, it's like I don't like provide a course. I don't like teach them anything. It's more like a project. Like when I tell them, okay, I'm proposing that you guys build this specific application. So the first projects that they built. So I was saying like, okay, I want something for the financial like dashboards, and then I want to be able to download all the transactions, and then I want to be able to see like the big ledger and then categorize everything. But you see, there's like too many functionalities, and there was too much work basically for the teams to push. So that what happens is in the end, there was no functionality that was like super good that we could implement and then just maintain. So what happened is the project just closed, and then what I did is I used that project with future projects. So like we're building finance version 2, but we're just focusing on the downloading the transactions, that UI. And then, so I think it's just important to limit the scope of work for the students, because if they work 4 months on a project, the first week they're going to be discussing about like what they want to work on, and then they choose a project, and then they're going to spend like 2 to 3 weeks just educating themselves on EOSIO and doing tutorials. So it leaves like 3 months to do like all the work. So you need to limit the scope. But some other projects, they last for 8 months or a year. So basically you need to make sure that the scope of work is not too big, because you really want them to finish the prototype, have a nice UI, just not just like super ugly UI, users won't use it. So I think it needs to be good looking, and then it needs to be tested fully, just to remove all the potential bugs, and then make a video of what it looks like when you use it, and then maybe another video just explaining the code and the background, and who did what, and just explaining for the future developers that could take that prototype and bring it to the other level.
So it sounds like you've already developed a project with a smaller scope based off the first version of the financial project.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Exactly. So we have one starting now that is going to take just this downloading the transaction basically off the blockchain, just that scope of work. And then we have another project taking just the decision-making voting platform of one of the first projects too, and focusing on that. And then we have another project taking the dynamic equity split section of the shareholding, one of the first project, and then focusing just on that. So I think it's important to limit the scope and make sure it's clean afterwards, so that someone else can take it.
Awesome. The other question that came to my mind during my term as a chief delegate and having our calls with Aaron Cox, he would often say that the documentation on EOSIO is not good enough for developers. And then we're talking about junior developers here. So what are your thoughts on, because I'm also thinking of like the teachers, like the teachers need to teach it. They don't know EOSIO. And so the project needs to have a lot of documentation behind it. What's that look like?
Yeah, so for sure, EOSIO is lacking documentation. So some students, let's say, want to build things on with NFTs and atomic assets, but there's a lack of documentation there. So Denny, our CTO, is going to give them some guidelines and tell them, well, you gotta check the code and then like find a way to like understand what happened there and try to figure it out, basically. But yeah, there's a lack of documentation. So we should push maybe on Pomelo or direct funding, or I don't know, just to get some of these projects like atomic assets and everything EOSIO, basically, to have better documentation so it's easy to onboard new people. But even with the current documentation, like the students still get to build something, but for sure it would help out to get better documentation. So there are students, they don't even know EOSIO, and then they need to start. So it's harder for them, for sure.
So would you say the lack of documentation limits the diversity of projects that can be proposed?
It doesn't limit the diversity of projects, because any project can be proposed. It's just that the students will have a hard time building it. So they might lose a lot of time trying to figure out, because there's a lack of documentation. So if there's proper documentation, the students will be able to do more work faster and maybe add some functionalities that they couldn't either way.
Got it. Yeah. And so you also mentioned one example with translations, and you were working with French students and you asked them to translate that into English. Obviously, us at the Bees, one of our core functions is translations. And so that to me kind of feels like a really synergetic place where we can help even existing projects. And so I can imagine, so just, by the way, for anyone watching, the Bees, we want to help EOS Nation go to all our localities and connect with universities and teachers. And like our Bees can perhaps project manage that in that language and then convert it back to English, so we can coordinate and collaborate, because everything's in English. And so, yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a real opportunity there to get people from any language, any country to go see their local universities and build those relationships. And then EOS Nation can be like a business partner, because sometimes to get these projects going with the universities, you need a business to push this. So just a guy from EOS Bees He's not necessarily in a business, so EOS Nation can be that business partner. And then, yeah, I guess it would be more for the technical questions. The students would need to ask them in English, unless we do have like a technical developer that can participate in the calls that do speak that specific language.
Or live translators.
Or live translators, yes. Good point.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm kind of thinking like, okay, you've shared the content, I'm going to share it with my bees. And to me, like one of the first next steps would be these, all of the, like the documentation that you shared, and like the tutorials, those need to be, well, I guess maybe the first thing would be to see if we can get some sort of connection with the university, then translate those documents. Would that be like a first step to move this forward?
Yeah, I think there's a few things we can do in parallel. So I think like the bees we can all take what I did, like the documentation, and then bring that onto like a Google Drive and things like that. But I think something that the community needs to work on is like, where, if I'm a new dev, either a student or just a startup, where do I go to learn EOS and to learn to build on this and have all these tutorials and things like that? So we need like a central place where all the information is. So maybe EOS support or eoscommunity.org or whatever. What I used to do is like, I just provided like a Word document or PDF with plenty of links to EOSIO developer channels, like the Telegram chat, and like plenty of links to resources. But yeah, EOS Costa Rica also is a good resource for sure. The guides there, but yeah, we just need to have like a good guide and then have the community focus on improving that guide, because we don't need 10 guides, we just need a very good one with all the information. So I think that's important to have. And then we could take all the documentation I did, like the email templates and things like that, and then add this documentation into it, and then translate that into many languages. And then yeah, at the same time, the bees could start getting these university partnerships and groups going, and the EOS Bees and the community as a whole should work on building like a pool of ideas, and really limit the scope of those ideas, so that we can create a pool that is accessible by the students to see what are all the proposed ideas. And so some students would want to see all the proposed ideas, but maybe some bees have their own ideas. So some bees could be entrepreneurs and marketers at the same time and say, hey, I always had that specific idea and I would like to push it and try to build a prototype. That's why I started this, is like I had all these ideas of what EOS should be building, and I was like, okay, let's go, I'm going to propose these ideas. So bees could do the same thing, like write down their ideas and then propose those specific ideas, and maybe alongside with other ideas, and then and yeah, get some groups to do that. The other thing I think is important is when the bees go and propose a project, they need to specify that we're proposing a project here, but there's many other ideas and there's room to get many groups. So let's say I went to a university and then I pitched an idea and then I got 3 groups of students. So, oh shit, okay. So I think that's an opportunity to get much more students than anticipated. So because the students, they really like to blockchain basically because they don't know it. And they heard about it a lot, so they want to experiment on blockchain. So it's often like one of the projects that I propose are often like the ones that are the most popular, because people want to experiment with blockchain, and especially like high performance blockchain like EOS. So I think it's super important to have that that idea open, that there's a possibility for more groups.
Yeah, totally. I want to talk about the cost now. So you had mentioned that it's about $1,000 per project, and there's Denise, your CTO's time, and there's time for our bees, like biz dev time. And so it seems to me that the funds that the bees are able to raise, these public funds can be used to pay our bees for their time of reaching out to universities. And the $1,000 from EOS Nation, can you break that down a little bit? Where does that go to?
Yeah, so basically when the devs, they build a prototype, they don't need much, like most of the software is free or open source, and like all the things that you need to build on EOS is available. So most of the time the cost will be, let's say, cloud hosting servers and things like that. Yeah, that's mostly what's in the bill, and then they'll use, let's say, a Jira or another tool to coordinate and like project manage their project. So that's those are like the two big costs, and often it's like about $500 per project. But the longer the project runs, the more monthly bills add up. But yeah, it's pretty much always under like $700 per project. That's just like the cost, but the cost of our time is not input in there. So I agree. Like if the bees are doing either marketing or business dev, their time should be paid. So that comes from the EOS Bee initiatives and funded by Pomelo and all these things. And but yeah, EOS Nation, our cost of time is not that much right now, because I have the process streamlined, and I have like 1 or 2 meetings with the students at the beginning of the project. So like maybe 2-3 hours there, and then maybe 2-3 hours at the end of the project. So maybe like maybe 5 to 10 hours of my time per project at the most. And then Denise time is like, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours. Well, yeah, maybe let's say 6 hours per 4 months, let's say. So it's not that much time. So if we get more devs involved, so that it's not just like EOS Nation CTO Denis, it's like plenty of devs from the community, like, I don't know, CC32 and plenty of other devs that are active at answering questions. If they join that Telegram channel to answer questions, and some of them join the AMA calls that we could do every week or every 2 weeks, I think that would help out a lot. But yeah, there's not like many, we don't need to meet them regularly because it's basically it's a school project. So it's not like our project. We propose a project, we give them guidelines and the functionalities that needs to be built, but the students are responsible for building their own thing and project managing their own project. So usually they don't contact me sometimes for like 2 months because they're autonomous and they can work alone. But early on, there's a few meetings, and then at the end, just to showcase what has been built.
Yeah, and perhaps this can go on Pomelo too, to compensate for some of the time, like from EOS Nation, like you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Time. Yeah, what I was thinking was like, we should make a Pomelo pitch to fund like interns. I like to use interns because there's like subsidized employees. So let's say an intern at $20 per hour, subsidized at 50%. Well, they cost us $10 an hour. And let's say they're specialized in marketing and they have like school in administration. So they can really help me out on administration stuff, and then find universities and try to build these relationships, and then coordinate all that. And then I just need to go on a call and then discuss with the students. But all the administration work can be done by interns and things like that. So yeah, for sure, I think Pomelo pitch would be interesting to get some people to help out or just fund EOS Bees basically to help on that part.
Yeah. So I feel like we covered a lot, and
yes.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to start getting into this. And because for us bees, we've been doing a lot of marketing, but we've been thinking of a way, how could we reach developers? And this feels like this is it. And I think that we can help.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good way for non-tech people to reach out and bring more developers to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's super important. And then, and then I think it's another opportunity, let's say for an entrepreneur that wants to build an idea, well, now they have a way to do it, because if you want to build an app, you need to find a dev, you need to pay him or have him as a co-founder or whatever. So I think just that part where you can propose your idea to a university in partnership with EOS Nation, and then have your idea built at almost zero cost by like 5 to 7 devs for like 8 months at almost zero cost. I think that's a good opportunity for an entrepreneur to really have his idea prototyped and start his project basically. So I think that's a good opportunity for the bees that would want to build an application on EOS.
Amazing, amazing. Not just for the bees, any, like you said, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
This feels like an incredible opportunity, but there's a lot of biz dev work that's needed to get this done. A lot of project managerial work, and but that's why we're here, and that this is our role. And so let's do it. Yeah,
for sure. So I think it would be good to have this project under EOS Bees for sure. EOS Nation can partner with that, and at some point more businesses or blog producers can join in that initiative. So I think like some businesses could propose. So let's say you have so what I propose most of the time is like, if you have an idea of an application or a functionality of your application that you're already building, and you want students to build it, well, it must not be something that you need in 2 months or 3 months. You don't want to push the students because, hey, we want this soon because we need to use it. It's more like, okay, find a functionality that it's a nice to have that you won't work on for the next year because you're busy on more important functionalities. Then you can propose that functionality that's a nice to have to the students, that they will then build it, and then you can incorporate it afterwards when you get there. But sometimes there's plenty of things that we wish we could add to our wallet or application, but we know we won't work on that. So I think those projects, or just like an entrepreneur wanted to build a prototype, I think those ideas are very good to propose. But yeah, let's start this, and I'd love to collaborate with the bees, and have everyone of the community collaborate on improving this process and really bringing it to another level. I'm looking forward to have like hundreds and hundreds of junior developers building ideas just by myself, and EOS Nation, like Denis. I'm not tech, and I was able to get like, so far I think like 50 something junior devs during the last 2 years to work on prototypes. So yeah, you don't need to be a dev to build when you follow that process. So I think that's an empowering for people in the community.
Very empowering. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, thanks, Vincent. We'll certainly be in touch. I'm going to share this with our leaders of the hives, our princess bees, and we'll see where we go from there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse.
See ya.
Yeah.